Southern California, 1970. Late afternoon in a public gym. The Chinese instructor finishes a demonstration when three uniformed men enter through the main door. The tallest one points with his chin and says something that makes everyone in the room stop moving. What happens in the following minutes does not just dismantle their certainty, it redefines everything they believed they knew about what it means to be dangerous. The gym is small, worn wooden floors, exposed brick walls, no mirrors, no chrome equipment, only 3 heavy bags hanging from beams, a raised wooden platform for demonstrations, and approximately 40 people seated on folding chairs forming an uneven semicircle. It is Tuesday afternoon. Most are the instructor's students, some curious onlookers, and a couple of skeptics who came specifically to see whether this small man can back up the claims he has been making about traditional martial arts. The instructor is 30 years old, 5'7", weighs 62 kilograms, wears simple black pants and a white shirt, barefoot, no insignia, no colored belts, no ceremonial decoration. Just one man standing on a platform explaining principles of movement with the clarity of someone who has spent years removing everything unnecessary from his technique. He has been speaking for 40 minutes about economy of motion, about how traditional forms waste energy, about why flashy movements look impressive but fail under real pressure. He demonstrates with one of his students, showing how a classic crane stance telegraphs intention, how a rigid horse stance sacrifices mobility for stability you do not need if you understand balance correctly. Some in the audience nod, others look uncomfortable. He is systematically dismantling what their previous teachers taught them, but they cannot deny what they see when he moves. The speed is unnatural, the control absolute. When he strikes the heavy bag, the sound is not the dull thud of brute force. It is a sharp crack of concentrated energy penetrating through the target instead of bouncing off it. The door opens and 3 men enter, military uniforms, all 3 are large. The shortest is probably 180 meters tall. The tallest is close to 190, all over 90 kilograms. They walk with that particular posture that comes from military training, shoulders back, chins up, synchronized steps. They take up space deliberately, do not ask permission, simply enter and stand at the back of the room, arms crossed over massive chests, watching. The instructor notices their entrance, does not interrupt his explanation, only acknowledges their presence with brief eye contact, and continues demonstrating a principle about weight transfer. But the energy in the room has changed. Everyone feels the new tension. These men did not come to learn, they came to test something. The instructor finishes his demonstration and asks if there are any questions. Silence for 3 seconds. Then the tallest man speaks from the back of the room. His voice fills the space easily, trained to give orders across noisy training fields. Do you really fight? It is not really a question, it is a challenge wrapped in curiosity. Is this fake or do you just do tricks for civilians? The instructor turns fully to face them. His expression remains neutral, no anger, no defensiveness, just focused attention. I define fighting as applying effective force against non-cooperative resistance. Under that definition, yes. The tall man smiles. It is not a friendly smile. It is the smile of someone who thinks he has just caught another overvalued instructor. He unbuttons the top of his uniform shirt. The muscles of his neck are visible, thick, trained by years of close combat drills. Real combat training, he says, walking forward. Marines. Me and my brothers here have been trained by the best combat instructors the Corps has. We have practiced against opponents who actually resist, not students who fall because they pay tuition. The other 2 nod, separating slightly into an unconscious triangular formation, trained tactical movement. The tall man continues. What you showed looks nice, fast, yes, controlled. But against someone my size, someone trained to fight for real, your small movements would not work. I would simply grab you. My weight and strength would neutralize you. Several students look at the instructor waiting for his response. He remains still, no change in expression, no visible tension in his posture. He simply studies the Marine as if analyzing an interesting technical problem. You are right that size matters, the instructor says calmly, and military combat training is effective within its parameters. But you are making an assumption. You assume your combat system and mine operate under the same rules. There are no rules in real combat, the Marine replies. Exactly. That is why your assumption is problematic. The instructor steps down from the platform and walks to the center of the room. You were trained to maximize force and aggression, to overwhelm with attack. That works when both fighters use force against force. But what happens when your opponent is not there when you arrive? The Marine laughs loudly. The other two join in. Not there. This is not a movie. You cannot just disappear. The instructor does not respond with words. He simply waits. His posture remains relaxed. Hands down, feet shoulder width apart. No defensive preparation. The tallest Marine looks at his companions. They exchange smiles. This is going to be entertaining. Returning to base with the story of how they exposed another kung fu instructor who talks a lot but cannot back it up against real fighters. Want to demonstrate that theory? The Marine asks. Because my commander told us not to cause trouble in town. But if you are offering a training lesson, technically we are not starting anything. The instructor considers this. He looks around the room. 40 witnesses, a public space. This could escalate badly. Police involvement, base command, local newspapers, the worst possible publicity for everyone involved. But he also understands something else. These men will not leave unless they get what they came for. Validation that their military training is superior. Confirmation that this civilian instructor is selling fantasy. If he refuses, they will interpret it as cowardice. They will tell the story of how the kung fu instructor backed down when faced with real Marines. The damage to his reputation would be permanent. A demonstration then, the instructor says. Not a fight. I only want to show a principle about timing and positioning. If it works, you have seen something new. If it does not, you have proven. They were taught to absorb strikes also makes them predictable. How they can keep their military training base but add layers of sensitivity that multiply effectiveness. The Marines absorb every lesson with an intensity that surprises the regular students. These are men accustomed to rigorous training, accustomed to following experts, and now they recognize mastery that transcends their own instruction. When the session ends, the tallest Marine approaches the instructor. I do not know what to say, he admits. I came here with complete arrogance, sure I would expose you as a fraud. Instead, you showed me that I have been operating with an incomplete understanding of what it means to fight effectively. The instructor places a hand on the Marine's shoulder. You came to test your belief. That takes courage. Greater courage is admitting when you were wrong. Most people never get there. Their ego will not allow it. Can I come back? The Marine asks. Can I bring others from my unit? This is what we need to learn, not to replace our military training but to complement it. The instructor smiles. It is the first non-neutral expression he shows all afternoon. You are always welcome. Bring anyone who wants to learn. The only condition is leave arrogance at the door. You brought enough for all of us already. The Marines laugh. Still tense, still processing, but real laughter. The tension finally breaks. As they prepare to leave, the tallest Marine turns one more time. One more question. When you hit that bag from 2 centimeters away, did you really generate that much power without visible preparation? Or was it just for demonstration? The instructor walks toward the Marine, stops 30 centimeters away, extends his arm until his fist lightly touches the Marine's chest. No space to pull back, no space for preparation, just static contact. Prepare yourself, he says calmly. The Marine instinctively tightens his abdominal muscles, 100 kilograms of muscle and training bracing to absorb what is coming. The instructor moves. It is not a punch in the traditional sense. It is a release. A slight hip rotation, a fractional extension, a precise release of energy. The Marine flies backward. Not stumbles. Flies. His feet leave the ground, traveling 2 meters before he slams into the wall. He is not injured, only completely stunned. His chest feels as if a car hit him. Not sharp pain, deep pressure. The sensation of massive force transferred directly into his center of mass from an impossibly short distance. The other 2 Marines rush to him, but he is physically fine, mentally dismantled by what he just experienced. That answers your question, the instructor says calmly. The Marine nods slowly, still leaning against the wall, still processing, still trying to reconcile what he felt with everything he knows about physics, force, and combat. That night, the 3 Marines return to base. They do not tell the story they expected. There are no jokes about fraudulent kung fu instructors. No laughter about demonstration tricks. Instead, they speak to their commander. They describe what they witnessed, how the most experienced Marine in their unit could not touch a man 40 kilograms lighter. They describe the strike from 30 centimeters that sent a 100-kilogram Marine flying backward. The commander listens, skeptical but respectful. He trusts these men. And if they say they witnessed something that challenges their current training, it deserves investigation. 2 weeks later, the commander visits the gym. He brings 3 officers with him. They want to see for themselves. The instructor demonstrates for them the same principles, the same impossible speed, the same absolute control. The commander is impressed enough to invite the instructor to the base, to demonstrate for larger groups, to complement the existing combat program with these principles of sensitivity and timing. The instructor agrees. Over the next 6 months, he visits the base twice a month, teaching rotating groups of service members. Some are receptive, some remain skeptical, but gradually even the skeptics notice improvements. Faster reaction times, better positioning, greater efficiency. Years later, several of those service members use these principles in real combat situations, situations where brute force alone is not enough, where adaptability saves lives, where understanding an opponent's timing means the difference between success and failure. They write letters to the instructor, describing how his lessons applied in conditions they never expected, how concepts that once seemed too philosophical became practical under extreme pressure. The instructor keeps these letters. He does not display them publicly or use them for promotion, but he values them because they validate something he always believed, that effective combat transcends style, transcends tradition, transcends even size and strength when the right principles are understood. The Marine who originally challenged him becomes one of his most dedicated students. He trains with him for 3 years. He never abandons his military identity, never leaves his combat training behind. He only expands it, complements it, makes it more complete by incorporating these additional principles. Eventually, this Marine becomes a combat instructor himself. When he teaches new recruits, he includes lessons on sensitivity and timing alongside traditional strength techniques. He tells the story of his first encounter with the civilian instructor, not as a story of embarrassment, but as a story of growth. He explains how arrogance nearly made him miss valuable knowledge, how being willing to admit he was wrong opened the door to becoming a better fighter, how true strength is not just how much weight you can lift or how hard you can hit, but how effectively you can apply what you have under unpredictable conditions. His students listen closely. Some probably think he is exaggerating, that no civilian instructor could really move like that the story has grown in the retelling, but it does not matter if they believe every detail. What matters is the lesson, the understanding that effective combat requires more than following a manual. It requires openness to principles your initial training may not have covered. The story spreads through the military community. It is told in mess halls, discussed during training sessions. Some dismiss it as an urban legend. Others investigate. A few eventually seek out the instructor themselves, wanting to see if the claims are real. The instructor welcomes everyone. He never refuses a demonstration, never refuses to teach, but always with the same conditions. Leave your ego at the door. Come willing to learn. Understand that being wrong about something is the first step to being right about it. The years pass. The instructor ages. Eventually, he retires from public teaching, but his influence continues. The students he trained become teachers. The principles he demonstrated are incorporated into various combat programs. The seed planted that afternoon in a small gym with 3 arrogant Marines grows into something much larger. Somewhere on some military base, a young service member hears the story of the Marine who went to expose a kung fu instructor and instead discovered there were levels of skill his training never showed him existed, that there is a difference between being strong and being effective, between hitting hard and hitting when it matters. Some dismiss the story as impossible, exaggerated martial arts fantasy. Others listen more carefully. They wonder what else might be missing from their training. What other principles exist beyond what the official manual covers? And a few, only a few, go looking for themselves, because that is the true lesson. It is not about which system is better, which style wins, which training produces the most lethal fighters. It is about understanding that effective combat cannot be fully contained within any single system, that there is always more to learn, that certainty, the absolute belief that your way is the only correct way, is the greatest limiter of growth. The 3 Marines entered that gym with absolute certainty. They left with questions. And those questions made them better fighters than certainty ever could. Years later, the tallest Marine, now retired and living civilian life, tells the story to his grandchildren. They ask if he won the fight. He laughs. There was no fight, he explains. That was the point. I came to fight. The instructor came to teach. And what he taught me in 5 minutes took me years to fully understand, that the most dangerous fighter is not the one who wins fights, but the one who does not need to fight because he understands principles that transcend violence itself. He pauses. That instructor taught me something no military manual ever could, that true mastery is not about dominating opponents, it is about mastering principles that make opponents irrelevant. His grandchildren process this in silence. Then the youngest asks, what was the instructor's name? The Marine smiles. It does not matter what his name was. What matters is what he represented. The idea that there is always more to learn, that being willing to be wrong is how we grow, that arrogance is the enemy of progress. He pauses again, looking out the window, remembering that afternoon decades ago, the shock of being completely outmatched by someone who should not have been able to touch him according to everything he had been taught. I went to that gym to prove I was superior, he says. I left having proven only that I had a lot to learn. And that was the most valuable lesson my military training never gave me. The question now is for you. How many times have you entered a situation with absolute certainty? How many times have you dismissed something because it did not fit what you already knew? How many opportunities for growth have you lost because your ego would not allow you to admit you might be wrong? Because this story is not really about martial arts. It is not about military versus civilians. It is not about who wins fights. It is about understanding that effective combat and effective life requires humility, openness, and the willingness to question what you think you know.